Just to continue the question that I had to you, you know, everybody has certain times in their lives that are more special, I think, than others. I had asked you what you think was the pinnacle, maybe the best part of your life, and you paused for a few minutes, and then you mentioned Hollywood because you were creating something. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, because here's a guy that's goes to Hollywood to make money. Because I got involved with a company that's turning out offbeat things. Some of it is sexual, but at the same time, I found out that both of the things that I was involved with, or some of the things I was involved with, was really good for men that needed to get a hard-on. And a woman needs a bust developer, and the way the woman today is being torn with her breasts and implanting things into her, the thing that I had was something that would make the breast higher. But so here, okay, so I'm involved with this. But as I go meet other people, I'm a photographer at a basic thing because I went to an art school for photography. The seeing, you know, the walls of the place with famous muralists, and seeing art, really good art, coming out, and then being involved with a class that's an artistic class, and who do I look for in my picture taking were people that sang, people that are artists and stuff like that. So when I go to Hollywood, I mentioned that I was at this whore's mansion, and here's all these great character actors. So I immediately took photos. She took the film away from me, but Vito convinced her, and when she looked at the photos, she knows that I wasn't being the CIA, I was just being somebody that was an artist like herself. So in meeting these people in Hollywood, my peers are all good, really fine artists, really the best artists. Everybody I turn to there in Hollywood is saying, yeah, we need a change here. It's so fucking sterile. We're coming out of the 50s. So I'm in on it. When you're in on something, you want it to work. But the money people are still money people. I would nightly go to Cantor's, and somebody would come up to me and say, hey, we want you to do a movie over here. Well, I knew what he was going to do with me. It was going to be some kind of a bullshit movie because I was seeing the movies that they produced. So I never did them. So I stayed with an artist who was a life photographer, who decided that it's time for him to get a movie camera and go out and do something. And he knew Vito, and he did the whole movie around Vito.
Which movie was that?
That was You Are What You Eat.
Right. Bruce Feinstein's movie.
Barry Feinstein.
Barry Feinstein.
Barry Feinstein, and he was she's married to Mary.
And now, how did that movie get? Did that movie get good distribution?
It got no distribution because of this factor. It was a guy that was doing a play, and it was called Hair.
Yeah, of course.
Now,
Cow Sills.
If
it was the Cow Sills. Remember the Cow Sills?
Give
me a head of hair, fine, beautiful hair. That's the guy that sang it. His family did it.
Yeah. But he has a different concept than You Are What You Eat.
Well, a very commercialized concept.
He also makes a misstatement about the Vietnam War, and I can't tell you exactly what it is, but it's something he says in this thing that turned me way off of the movie. When I saw the movie
said
here, in the script,
Oh, I see. One of the actors says it is, yeah.
the actors are talking about it. We had people that were in what we were doing that were in New York here, the first edition. So anyway, I'm in on something really new. Being a businessman, wannabe artist. I lost my wife because she couldn't maintain the artist idea that I had. She went and married somebody commercial. I had a daughter with her. So as I'm going, women are coming at me as you think about new rock and roll and how young women are just inundated by this new idea, and they'll do anything to be with you. They would show up in the middle of the night. I had young women that wouldn't leave me alone. So anyway,
then getting back to Cotati.
Cotati is another new experience.
Cotati was another revolution.
Yes.
Because Cotati,
You
but
have
it was a different one. It wasn't as
Yeah.
cultural as
Yeah.
it was political.
Yeah, because you have a small town that wants to make a change, and they did. The students elected a young mayor.
Right, Steve
and-
Laughlin.
Yes, and proceeded for at least 2 years to change the town. And whatever they did, except for making the town a square, they never completed that. But because they had so much trouble with themselves and whatever else. But they basically made a park so people could come together in the park and play music, and we all participated in making the thing. And I was for 2 years on the Parks and Recreation
With me, we were on it together.
Commission.
What was exciting, of course, about Cotati, and you can chime in on this, is that yes, it was a very small piece of real estate, maybe 2 to 3 miles of real estate in total, right? Everybody could live near everybody else.
Right.
What was similar with Hollywood is the rent was cheap, the food was
Right.
cheap.
Yeah.
All right, everybody could live near everybody else.
That's
What
right.
was also, there was really 3 phases, if you think about it, in Cotati. There was the initial phase with the Tony Novak Sutleys and the Steve Laughlins.
Yeah, and the Peace and Freedom Party.
Right, the Peace and Freedom Party. And then in '74, a group of us, Peter, Lenny, and number, we started the second phase,
Yeah.
which was the rent control, the riding the
Yeah.
park, the redoing
Yeah.
the
And
traffic,
going to school to become lawyers.
going to school to become lawyers, the SSI, getting people on SSI, bringing lawsuits against the
Yeah.
city, trying to take over City Hall. We got Bill Payne on there, running 8 different elections. And then in 1980, there was another resurgence in Cotati, because from 80 to 83, you had the cabaret. You didn't have that in 79. You had the cabaret, but at the same token, you had the Hewlett-Packard suit that was going on with
Yeah.
Judy Berry from
Yeah.
Earth First and her husband. And then you had the Reagan economics that was completely transforming all of Rohnert Park and the town at the time.
Right.
And we were all very, very active, if you remember. So my question to you is, wasn't, and you can talk about Vito as well from what you know, but wasn't Cotati also an exciting time in your life, or was it not?
It was a very exciting time because of the free store. Otherwise, it wasn't dull, and I could dance like I danced but I didn't have a prominent dance situation like I did in Hollywood.
Right.
I was known as a dancer in Hollywood, and I was picked by certain people to do certain things in Hollywood where I wasn't there. So we had to find a venue, and the venue was Free Store.
And it was the park was your stage.
Yeah, and you got to remember that who started the Free Stores were the Diggers.
Right, of course.
The
And the
Diggers,
Grogan.
and that's where Vito got the name Free Store from, and proceeded to actually do a Free Store in several parts of of Cotati until he found this little shed. It was behind.
Right next to the Meander Inn.
Yeah.
Well, it used to be
And in the back, and then the guy that ended up owning the place didn't like Vito, and he had it. The place was burnt twice, and then the third time he had a semi truck back into the thing and destroyed it.
Well, there were also, and it didn't come until 1980, was the beginning of the community dinners at the Cabaret. Remember, on every Thursday, we would invite the entire community.
I wasn't there.
You weren't there?
No.
Oh, it's a marvelous thing. Went on for 2 years.
But remember this also. At City Hall, we did it too.
That's
until
right.
they shut us off.
Yes, I do remember that. I forgot all about that.
See?
That's what started it.
Yeah.
And then it moved over to the Cabaret.
Yeah, and Dusty Dawn
was the head of Park and Rec.
Was the head of Parks and Recreation. She kind of took our place as somebody that they could go to. She brought in Indian dancing. She brought in all kinds of stuff in the park. She did a wonderful job of what she did.
And even though you were more in the cultural aspect, you were also very involved in the politics of Cotati. Rent control. You were a staunch supporter of rent control. Also rearranging the traffic on the streets.
That was my main thing, is to try to make that a park.
Also
just like Santa Rosa today is trying to do their downtown.
Are they?
And they can't make it.
Well, because it's all based on cars. But also we put the planter boxes in front of all the downtown places. Yeah. We pushed that. We blocked off George Street. We did that, right? We got rid of the pesticides. We passed rent control. We even passed a condominium limitation ordinance that we put on the ballot that stopped them from building condos.
Right.
I mean, we really hit them hard. We sued them for illegal elections. And I think you were always at City Hall. Vito was always at City Hall on Tuesday night.
We would go to every meeting, almost every meeting.
Always.
Always be involved with. And that's what happened when Vito died, and he resigned his position on one of the commissions, commissions or committees, because he didn't want to die in office, because they were lying to him about the bandstand, and they told him that they were going to give him a piece of the bandstand. The main piece was a large 4x4 that he could use it as a carving to make a totem pole for the city. He was going to leave it that way, either put it on his property or give it back to the city. So they just bulldozed the bandstand, didn't give him anything, and he soon died after that.
Right, and that was Little Richard, wasn't it? That bastard, Little Richard Cunningham.
Yeah.
And Cliff Buck, that Esther bastard. Let me ask you this question: around by 1991, when Vito passed away, or let's even talk earlier, let me put it.
92 he died.
92 he died. Okay. From my point of view, Cotati was finished in '83. It was over. Yeah. 84, 85 through 90, there was nothing happening in Cotati. It was dead. Yeah. It was starting to transform itself into a suburban bedroom community.
Right.
What did you and Vito feel like when Cotati died the same way Hollywood died? I mean, the death of both of them were very similar. They only lasted a small length of time.
We transferred into the city because he had met this young woman who I think I've zeroed you in on her, Leslie Michael.
Right.
She took him, Vito, and brought him to San Francisco and into different clubs, and we did performances in those clubs.
Okay.
There were two major clubs.
Which one?
I can't remember the name of the clubs, but one was it was called Club 9 Motel, because it had it was a disco next to they owned the property, and they had these motel rooms, and you could go and I don't know if they rented or gave you a room that you could do some art piece in.
Huh.
So we would do art pieces in these things. Leslie was very involved with the owners and also the owners of the other club.
I see.
Which was,
That's where you jumped off and hurt yourself, wasn't it?
well, that was later on.
Oh, that was okay. Well, let me ask you this then. So then, as you saw Katati start to wither and die, both of you were living there. You're living in the
Yeah.
Grove. He's living over
Yeah.
in Katati. So you meet the girl, and you start going down to the city. The realization was that Katati was finished, right?
Realization is that, yeah, the university was, you know,
It's turning into a business school.
turning into a business school, but still there was Nancy Lyons and there was Ann Woodhead
Mhm.
that were running the department of dance,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a lot of good theater going. Catherine's brother was in a lot of that theater, and he had his basic training done there. He was in a famous thing that they went to Washington D.C. with. So it was pretty good theater still going on there, but we could see, as far as we're not professionals,
Right.
never professionals. They might have paid us some subsistence for our car, but no pay. And then I became a photographer.
I remember that.
I didn't participate in very much of what was going on. I was their photographer, and I would deliver photographs to them all the time. I have photographs, lots of them.
Yes, I remember when you were doing all that photography. You had a nice camera too.
Yeah, a Nikon.
And but what looking back now, Carl? Now you've moved. Then you moved on to Roner. You moved on from Roner Park up to Santa Rosa, right?
Yeah, moved from Santa Rosa, from Roner Park. I was staying at the Lancaster Apartments. I got into a scrape with them, and it was somebody that challenged me in the that lived there and was a good friend of the manager, so the manager had me leave. I was on HUD, so the HUD people came there and determined that I should leave and find another. So a woman that worked for Oliver's said to me, I know where I live, there's some apartments, and I think you can get a place. And I had a little bit of trouble, but then they accepted me.
And that's here.
And that's this apartment.
And you've been here how long?
I've been here since 98, so 10 years.
That's a long time.
It's a long time.
10 years. And what do you feel about your life now? You feel you're still very active? You feel
I'm a videographer, and whatever I can get together to put on the local media, I try to do it. I have a thing called Carl's Kitchen,
yes.
but I also am involved with the local tribes, which are the Pomos and Miwoks and other tribes in this area. And I do put that stuff on weekly. Sometimes they'll give me 4 shows a week, or sometimes they'll give me 6 shows a week. So my stuff is being shown, and because it has a political idea to it, they like it because our station is like that.
Right.
It even talks about 9/11 and you know what's happened with Bush and so forth.
Bohemian Grove and all that stuff.
Bohemian Grove, right?
Let me ask you this: of all the people that you met in your lifetime, besides Vito, who were some of the people that impressed you the most?
Glenn Sacco,
And why Glenn?
even
Why
Glenn
Glenn?
Sacco, because he is so ambitious and outgoing, and his voice was resonant.
He really carried himself.
Yeah,
Didn't he?
yeah.
Who else?
Applebaum,
Why Applebaum?
because he had such a a really good imagination about logistics, about how to put things together. When I met him, he was standing on a soapbox or a box, and I'm saying to him, "Are you preaching off of that soapbox?"
Where was he? What street?
He was at Vito's, and he was in the store where, and he had these people around him, so you could see that he was, he was a Hitler character, or somebody that's vamping on whatever he wants to vamp on. So I called him down on it. I said, "Get off the soapbox," or something like that, and he became prominent there, and there are pictures of him, being very prominent.
But he wasn't prominent on the street. He didn't go to clubs.
Yeah, but he was always a secondary. When we went out, he was hanging back in the bathtub. He wouldn't.
Why?
Because he had this thing about Ricky Applebaum. Like I said, he wanted to be the guy, and that's why he couldn't make it in Freestore.
And that's why he went on his own.
That's why. Listen, I'm the one that told him to start the band, the Tattooed Vegetable. I said, here's the premise. It's a premise. You're not a rock and roll player. You're going to find musicians that will support whatever you're doing, but do it as a theater project. That was the idea, as a theater thing. Because my feeling about punk and all that stuff was it's theater.
Right.
It's all theater,
Sure.
and it's all, what you can get together and where you can go with it. I don't know why he didn't become famous.
Well, let me tell you, I booked him at Madame Wong's West. I booked him at
That's
Madame
where I
Wong's
saw it.
East.
That's where
I
I saw
booked him at Blackie's West in L.A.,
Yeah.
Blackie's East. I booked him at the Petaluma Theater. I
Somewhere
booked
in-
him with the Dead Kennedys over at, that was my gig.
we're into them right now?
Oh, who is? Cello Biafro, you're into this?
Carlo is one of the band and he's Rose's nephew,
Oh, really?
and he's courting Catherine right now.
Well, listen. I mean, we booked them at. I booked them at, and the guy Eric did the posters, which was Jackie Kennedy with the bullseye on the thing. They were torn down all over the county, and it turned into a fiasco. But Apple was a very intelligent fella. The last time I talked to him was just before he died, but he turned into the heroin just destroyed him.
If he wouldn't have gone to heroin, I think that he would have been a very famous person. But it was his downfall.
Yeah, I know.
It was Lenny Bruce's downfall.
I know.
Lenny, the reason why Lenny died, the way I get it, is that he had cleaned up. He was lonesome because he was being attacked and nobody was hanging out with him. He didn't have his multitude.
Right.
And he called up the guy that had given him the year before a hit, and he used the same hit. So if he had a year to clean his body out,
Oh, it was too strong.
so it was too strong. So he OD'd, and he didn't have anybody to walk him.
Terrible. So you were mentioning so in terms of people that you admired or respected, Applebaum was one. You had mentioned who was the other person that you had mentioned?
Glenn Sacco.
Yeah. So who else?
Now there's some women too.
Who?
Catherine, Kathleen, and Bobby, and Yvonne. Yvonne was prominent, but there was a sleeper there. Oh, Peggy, of course. Peggy was bigger than most of those people knew. She always was right on time, and she could sing, and she could really dance very well. And of course, Catherine, my friend Catherine, today. I've been with Catherine for since '92. And since when Vito died, I've known Catherine. And Gail Zappa is a very prominent person in the world of rock and roll, who is very cantankerous, and she fights the dragon to me.
But you're still friendly with her.
I'm friendly,
She's a good
sure.
friend
I
of
can,
yours, right?
Zero on the computer.
You could call her up now and she'd answer
Yes.
the phone. And when Frank died, did you see him shortly before he died?
No.
You didn't have a
5 years.
falling out with him, did you?
I did not have a falling out
You
with
just
him.
lost contact?
Because he cranked his music up and he didn't want to listen to what I had to say to him, I said, what's the use of...
But you never recontacted
I always
him.
liked his wife too, but I never would come on to her because
Of him.
Because he was my friend.
Right, I understand. And how did Freestore end up breaking up? Well, why did it stop?
Freestore broke up because I uttered something in a city. It wasn't a city council meeting. It was a group meeting of the city people. Somebody called a meeting and the thing, and I identified what was going on at that time was Jerome had a cop, one of the cops, and
Jim Morrison, his name was.
And he had him living in his some of his space, and he was being his man. So I got up and said, "Yeah, he's your man. He's guarding your dope." And Jerome, the shit hit the fan, baby. I had to leave town.
You did?
Well, I left town because, but I didn't really do that.
But that was the end of the Freestore?
Well, let me tell you, we have 13 people at Freestore now,
Right.
and half of them go with Jerome.
Why? Because Jerome was supplying them?
No, because Jerome is on the dope side and we're on the other side.
Oh, the same split, the same
Same.
GTO thing again.
Same thing again.
The same thing
Same
again.
thing.
Where were all these people living? Was everybody living at Vito's house?
Nobody was living in
Nobody
Vito's.
was living in Vito's?
He would have overnighters, but
That's
nobody
it.
lived with him.
What about Loretta? How did she come into
Well,
the scene?
Loretta also was didn't know what to do about Vito, and I says, go get him.
Well, where did she?
She's interested
Where
in
did
you.
she meet Vito? Where?
I don't know. She must have seen Freestore somewhere, and she decided to get in it. She's a very beautiful woman. Her body was beautiful, and she could sing, and she had an offbeat voice, and then she got together with Michael Wednesday, and they had a baby, but he wasn't that interested in her and Mary Apple. But in the end of his life, Wednesday,
Oh,
he
he's
moved
dead
up
now?
north. Yeah, he moved up north with her, and he was around her.
To Humboldt.
Humboldt, and he died up there.
From what?
From dope, I would
Probably.
think.
He used to busk. He used to play out in front of the laundromat in Kentucky for
Yeah,
nickels and
yeah.
dimes. But then Loretta then became Vito's girlfriend, right?
Yeah, and at the same time, she got an annuity from one of her aunts, and she bought a house that was right down the street from Vito.
Right.
And she let several people, including Tony Tiger, move on her land. What's his name? Vigdor lived there. And there was another person that
Jim
was,
Jones? The
no,
guy that was in the Spanish-American War?
no. Somebody else lived there too. It'll come to me.
But then that's how she began to get involved with
So,
Vito?
but at the same time, she didn't want to stay at the house. She wanted to be with Vito. There was more action at his house.
Right.
So she let all those people stay there, and we all paid the rent. You see, we paid her rent,
Right.
and then I'm assuming that she sold it, but she lived with Vito, and he gave her a baby,
Right, and the baby...
which was Sophia.
Right.
who became a junkie with Applebaum.
And now, where's Sophia now?
I think she still lives with her mother up there, and her mother never takes credit that her daughter's a junkie.
But Loretta's never come back here.
She comes here on occasion.
Do you see her?
If she sees me, she gives me a total glare of "get the fuck out of here."
Why? Did you have a falling out?
When she lived on, you told me at the time, I got in a thing with that redheaded woman where she fucked up my truck. I had a Volkswagen bus, and she went underneath and dislodged something, and she was harassing me forever. We were living together, but she lived in the front room and I lived in the back room, and there was always, so one day she pushed me as I'm going out the back door, she pushed me, and she knew if I hit her or went after her, she had a case. So I didn't do that, and I walked away from her, and Loretta backed her because of Applebaum. See, Applebaum.
Oh, this is Debbie.
Debbie, and that was his girlfriend. So Loretta backed them, and at that moment, Loretta was drinking water out of the well that was in the house. So I surmised and told her, "Listen, you're living in a dead well here. That's a dead well. You should have this thing analyzed." And because she was in bed all the time, and so were the kids.
Oh, they were sick?
They were sick from the water.
Oh my God.
So she finally had the water analyzed and started drinking bottled water and got out of there. But she backed this girl, and she backed Applebaum, and I think that's when I don't know if Applebaum went to jail then or what, but something happened, and he had a baby with her.
Uh-huh.
So you said to me at that time, "Don't stay here anymore, move to the Grove."
Uh-huh.
So I bought one of your, I was there a short time, and then I bought one of your...
You bought the bus. You gave me
No, I bought your trailer first. I had a second place, I bought a bus that somebody sold me.
No, but you ended up buying my bus with the floors in it.
But I bought two vehicles from you.
Oh, you did?
I bought a silver trailer that was on the corner.
Oh, the Prairie Schooner.
Yeah.
Yes, it was behind Applebaum's, and then I took it and put it in the Grove on the corner.
Right.
You bought that.
Yeah.
That's right. And you know, we both did well on that because I was leaving the country, and you gave me that little radio that I love so much, and you paid me by the month for about 2 years, I remember, and it all worked out for us.
Yeah,
and you moved there. That's right.
And then I moved the other bus, and I got a companion there, and I had a baby with her. She asked me to have her baby because their parents wouldn't let her have any. She was too nutsy, but she said to me, "I want to have another baby." So I proceeded to have a scene with her constantly, and then I gave her the bus to use. She sold it to somebody. I gave her the bus. She sold it to somebody, and then she wouldn't. She went off and married somebody.
What do you think? You've been up in Sonoma County now since 70, right?
1970. The first day of 1970, I moved up here.
Right. So 38 years. What in those 38 years? What was the worst time of your life? In other words, not the worst, but in other words, as you get older, things change. So let's take the 80s for example. When you left that scene with Debbie and Loretta and moved over to the trailer that I had sold you, you had a Volkswagen van at the time.
Right.
Was that a good time in your life, or was that not a very good time in your life?
No, it was pretty much the same. I stayed there for 8 years. We established poetry readings. We established music to come in there. We established dinners.
Did you?
Sure. And that's when I found the bakeries, and that you could distribute day-old bakery goods. So So I would bring them on campus all the time at the Grove, and later on I distributed. And even today I will go over to a bakery and get stuff and give it away to the people at large.
But in the Grove, was the store still there at the time?
The store was just ending.
Was the radio station still there? You know, initially
No
a guy by the
radio
name
station.
Jim built that place.
Yeah, I think it was kind of there, but it was going.
Okay. And have you been back to the Grove any time recently?
No.
Do you know what goes on there now?
Maybe 5 years ago. Only that they have been challenged about living, the price of the things going up. Or no, it's the logistics of how you live there. They want it to be very proper and no over garden, because there was a man
and no
way in
vans welded to other
yeah,
vans.
Yeah, they want it to be, you know, just like every other trailer park.
Are there people?
But there are people there that are so entrenched and know what to do that
they're never going to get them out.
I don't know how it is today, and because we don't hear anything about it.
Right. You don't go down to Cotati at all, do you?
I only go there I have a mailbox there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so interested in, because I helped the people at Oliver's establish Oliver's,
Mm-hmm.
and I was very involved with his Steve's daughter.
Were you involved with? What do you mean, romantically?
No. Involved with helping them with their logistics of the place.
Setting the place up after they took it
Setting the
over
place,
from the other store.
If you know, there was a famous story about Farmers Market. Okay?
Tell me the story.
Here's Steve buying. Steve's buying the place from whoever owned Farmers Market. It's not Oliver's. It's just a store.
Right.
There's a guy working there, and he's a bald-headed man, and he's about 50 years old. And if you go through his line, you gotta remember that he's gonna steal something from you. In other words, he's gonna overcharge you. So Vito hit me to him, but I knew it already because a lot of times I will check my receipt, and I knew he was screwing me because I said, hey, you overcharged me here, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So Vito says, watch out for that guy. Don't go through his line. Okay. So, they are poor. And they can't figure out why they're so poor. I'm talking about the people that own Oliver's. So one day, his daughter starts checking certain things and found a lot of money that was missing. But at the same time, they knew it was the guy. Mm-hmm. And they found out that he embezzled at least $200,000 from that store, maybe more. So when they got rid of him, they started to become rich.
They didn't prosecute him, though. They just let him go.
I don't think so.
Okay. So then they started to become rich.
Eva Moss is the daughter.
Okay.
Eva Moss, and she's a singer. And I prompted her for singing because I knew about singers. I told her to go to the black church. She didn't go to the black church, but she went to the JC and became a famous singer.
Wow.
In this, and she bought a house not too far from the JC too, and got married to the guy that did the framing of Oliver's and made it a better store. Mm-hmm. And they opened a third store now. It's on Stony Point Road at 3rd. Mm. And it's a nice, really open, nice store, but they ain't going to do too good there because that community is, I don't know.
The problem is they open these stores too quickly. They should just be happy with one
Yeah,
or two. You
yeah.
know,
But
not
see,
really-
they're a multi-million-dollar organization,
Right.
and I know that, and they have several partners. And I think the mother's still alive, and Eva's part of her mother.
And what happened to the what did you like about the coffee shop in Katati? In the '80s is when the coffee shop came into being.
Which
right?
one?
The one next door to Farmer's Market, next to Eeyore's. Right where Oliver's is now. Right down from the Brass Ass.
You mean the bakery?
The bakery. The coffee. We used to call it the coffee shop.
Well, for one thing, the woman that worked there, her husband was a manager of one of those chains, you know. And she always liked me, and then she started letting me go behind the
I
counter.
remember that.
And then I started servicing the
I
place.
remember that.
They needed somebody to take off. So then they said, free reign for the food, just take it, cakes, everything. So I distributed. That's what I did.
But you know, that was the place that Lenny and I and all of us would have our political meetings.
Oh, is that right?
Oh yeah, in the morning we plot and plan everything we were going to do for the day or the week. As you know, when Lenny and I, when we lived in Kentucky, every day was devoted to overthrowing the government. Every day, every second of the day.
Oh my God.
Every second. There's nothing else that we did.
Yeah.
We didn't do anything else.
Right.
Right? I mean, that's all we did. Ride our bicycle to the courthouse, ride our bicycle back, meet with people in meetings, and then go to City Hall, write ordinances. We did it for what, 9 years?
Yeah.
9 years, David.
Well, I still think that Vito, up to a point, because he didn't die in office, but he was in office.
Right.
He was still doing what you were doing, but he was more on a way to give advice to people if they wanted the advice, keep the thing going.
Right.
That's what Vito's thing was, because he was doing that heavy theater almost until he died with her, and he got that disease and he couldn't recover from it.
Loretta was still friends with him all the way to the end, wasn't she? Or no?
Yeah.
She was.
Yeah, well, he had a baby with her.
Right, but people have falling
And
out.
he helped bring her up.
Right. She's now still in Humboldt, right?
I think she's still there, and I don't visit them because I've had a falling out. This is the reason. Groovy Pelikas died,
Right.
I think, near her 40th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
But her mother, who all these years was kind of tamped down because they had so much turmoil in their family, dying, people dying, son dying, his son dying,
Vito died.
Vito, the whole thing. She decided that she's going to be the, because she witnessed Vito, Groovy dying. She died in Sebastopol in the hospital there, and she lives a couple of blocks from there. Okay, so she watched her daughter die. Bibi's upset because so many people are dying in their family. I didn't know if you know that her sister killed herself with a shotgun.
Sue's sister?
Sue's sister,
What year?
Sally. Probably 5 years, 6 years ago.
Here in this county?
Yeah, in
Why?
Sebastopol.
Why?
I don't know why.
No note?
Oh, they say that she took some kind of drugs that she shouldn't have, and it made her, So she left a daughter, and you have to remember that the father, who was in his 90s, he died. So they left a block of property and money. So Sue is kind of the overseer of
She's
it.
a godmother.
Yeah, because Sally did leave a daughter who's in her, middle 20s, and I don't think she's that capable, but she is capable. She's pretty good at it, but Sue wants to run the thing. Sue is a boss.
But Sue's also a registered nurse, isn't she?
Well, she has, capacities like that, right?
Now, what do you think Sue thinks in terms of her life, having lived this
I don't
glory?
talk to her.
But just what do you think? Having lived this glorious life up until maybe the late
She-
70s,
yeah.
and then boom, it's over. She becomes a librarian,
Yeah.
etc. What do you think? Do you think she's a sad person, or is she a...
I'll give you a thing about it. She always maintained that she was Susie Cream Cheese.
Right.
Frank Zappa said Susie Cream Cheese, I think I told you, was the elder waitress at Canter's that had hair growing out, moles and stuff like that, and her name was Sue. He says that that's Susie Cream Cheese, but then there's another woman that portrayed Susie Cream Cheese on the album, and that was the girl, I can't remember her name.
It's in that book. I forget it
Yeah.
too.
And so anyway, no, yes, that's who Susie Cream Cheese really is the girl on the album.
Then it's not the
And
Canter's
then
woman.
they say that Pamela Zarubica was Susie
Who's
Cream.
Pamela Zarubica?
She was somebody that introduced Frank Zappa to his wife.
Oh.
You see? So they all, and everybody I knew that was name was Sue thinks they're Susie Cream Cheese. So getting back to Sue,
Right.
Sue lives in this mystical world of who she is. And she tells everybody that she's Susie Cream Cheese. And she's not.
So she's living mythology.
Yes,
But do you think that she still lives in the past?
definitely. And now she has, her sons will listen to whatever she has to say, and she runs the whole show, including the house in Cotati. So I say, I went to the wake. It was a rainy, muddy day in the park, standing there in the mud, and she's up there ranting about Groovy, who she attacked when she was a young girl. Groovy was, and I had to stop her, and then Sue beat me up. And when I would come up there, she would go after me with a broom because I made that utterance about her attacking Groovy, because Groovy, you know, this thing that you said about her being a certain kind of a person that, dealt with sick people. She was in Groovy's mouth with one of those picks, fucking around, and Groovy was yelling, screaming, and she's about 11 at that time. So I said to Sue, stop doing that. You're bothering her. Leave her alone. I'll call the cops if you don't stop. She came at me with a broom and hit me. So I was 86'd out of the house for a while. And then one day Vito pulled into the driveway and says, let's try it out. I just sat in the car, and I happened to get out of the car, and she came running down and hit me again.
But you speak with her now.
No.
No?
No.
So you're at the wake and she's up there ranting and raving, and then what happened? You didn't say, hey,
I
Sue,
just
I'm
walked
sorry?
away, and they said there was going to be another wake, and I never showed up for the second wake.
Oh, so since the time she hit you with the broom, you haven't talked to her?
No.
So she doesn't like you then?
It isn't that she doesn't like me, it's that she does acts on me that I don't agree with her, and I'm not gonna say anything to her, because if she says something arbitrary to me about blah blah blah, I'm gonna get in an argument
Right.
again, and who knows what's gonna happen.
Now, Sue isn't friends with Gail Zappa, is she?
Yes.
Oh, they stay in contact?
Because Gail Zappa, when Groovy died, said to me, why didn't I know that Groovy was sick? Now, Gail Zappa doesn't know the story. The story is that Groovy became a total somebody that was so sick that they could not maintain anymore. She drank herself and used dope and had a mate that beat her up continuously. So he was one of those, it was one of those really terrible things. So that BB had her come and live with the house, and he would buy her daily a pint of booze to keep her drunk.
How did Vito and Sue break up?
She didn't have a capacity to be a part of Free Store. You look at the Free Store picture, the one in front of the burnout Free Store, she's in it prominently and she's got a baby in her hand. So I remember being at the place, Sonoma State, and she came out and picketed Free Store. I don't know what her thing was about it, but she said we were doing something wrong. Okay? And she would go, and we just did Free Store right on top of her. We didn't care about it, whatever it was. But she did disrupt us.
But she was, having been with Vito since she was 18, it must have been difficult for her to give Vito up, no?
Yeah, he had to push her out of the house.
Oh, he asked her to leave?
He had asked her out to leave because it was reported that he would be bloodied by her. She would beat him up. He would never counter her. He would never hit her back. She would hit him in such a way he would bleed.
And so then finally he just said, look, you have to leave?
So he got together with his children and they threw her out. They wouldn't let her back in the house.
Where did she go?
She had a mother in Sebastopol who was still alive and prominent and had a lot of money, and so did her father. So they bought her a house.
Oh. Well, she must be around 66 now, 67?
She's 20 years younger than I am.
You're 72? No, she
75.
Can't be, she can't be 20 years younger. She can't
Yes,
be much.
she is.
She's older than you. She has to be. If she married Vito when she was 18 and it was in the early 60s.
And I was 30 years old.
She's got to be in her 60s.
She's 10 years younger than I am.
And you're 72?
No, I'm 75.
So she's 65.
She's 65,
Right.
yeah.
Born around 43,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But she never got another boyfriend, did she?
She had tons of boyfriends.
Who, after she left?
Very prominent people.
Oh, really?
Well, she had a home to bring them into. But she is a pack rat, and she has a lot of things. I remember that there was a lot of photographs in the house, and most of them disappeared into her house. If you're gonna,
do people approach her and call her and say, "Look, I'd like
sure,
to talk to you"?
Gail Zappa talked to her. They talked to her. I'm sure that when she found out Groovy died, that's what I said to her when she wrote that to me. Well, I didn't know that there was anything wrong. I said, call her, because I provided her the phone number.
But the people that came out from Paris, they didn't get a hold of her or anything, did they?
Yes, they did.
And she was open to that?
I didn't stay there for her take.
But she did give a take.
She did give a take, and with BB.
I see.
And I don't think that she doesn't have that kind of continuity where she could really tell you a story.
Right.
You see?
Right.
So I don't think they were that interested in her.
Right.
I don't know what they did. Those guys never told me, never showed me any footage.
And you never heard from them again, did you?
Yeah, I still have a tail with them somehow, but I think that guy lost interest because when this Sarkozy came into office, I don't think it's the same. I don't think Frank Zappa is that prominent in France, but he still is in Germany.
Well, sure, Havel. Zappa was working with Havel, right?
Right.
In what, Czechoslovakia?
Yeah, but also in the Germans.
In the German scene.
sphere.
Right.
He was so prominent and still is today.
I'm sure he is. Well, he's got a cult following.
And there is a blog. It's called. It's the name of one of his. Wait a minute. I almost have it now. But it's called that.
You have it on your computer, no doubt.
Yeah, and this guy, Laura Vogan, or something like that. It's
From Germany.
you can go right on into his blog and you'll see Zappa and John Truby and stuff.
Truby didn't know Zappa though, did he? Truby just
No, but
listened
he
to
met
Zappa.
his wife, and he. I don't think he arrived there until Frank died.
No, he's too young. Truby's too
Yeah.
young. Truby missed a generation. I'm sure he's sorry about it. He missed a generation. There's
Yeah.
not much happening now, as you know. Let me ask you one final question as we wrap this up, and I'm going to get going because I got a 4.5-hour drive. And that is, do you think Frank Zappa was as talented as people say he was?
He was more talented and deserves, because of his thing about Washington and free speech and so forth, he deserves much more than he can't get it with an administration like Bush.
No, of course not.
But he's a very prominent person, and also in music he was way ahead.
Was he a nice guy?
He was a really nice guy. I enjoyed his company whenever I was with him, but at the end I didn't have a synchronization anymore.
Yeah. Well, Carl, this has all been fascinating. It's like I tell you, I had no idea when I called you to let's do this thing together, that what I've learned about my own self and my own history, just going back. Because again, you have to remember, my father called the cops on Steppenwolf, and I lived in Nichols Canyon and Willow Glen, and around the corner from Mama Cass, and around the corner from John Mayall.
Nichols Canyon is in Hollywood, and it's in like in the middle.
You got to go straight up Crescent Heights. You make a right-hand turn on Hollywood. You go about 4 blocks. You make a left on Nichols Canyon. And if you keep going straight up Nichols Canyon, you get to all the rich people's house. But if you make the left on Willow Glen, you get up to the other side of Laurel Canyon, right above the Houdini house where I used to play as a kid.
Well, that's where Woodrow Wilson is.
The Woodrow Wilson
But
Drive is
listen
there.
to this.
That's where Mama Cass used to live, Woodrow Wilson Drive.
The segment that I was in with Mondo Hollywood was filmed in Nichols Canyon.
Was it? Which part of it? Because I have the film at
I don't
home.
know, but there was a stream that went right by the road,
Okay, that makes sense.
and he had me stand there, and he photographed me, and then Vito did something with him.
Wow, I'll have to see it again. The thing about Nichols Canyon is that in this 65, 66, there weren't housing developments, and as kids we would find those waterfalls. There were actual waterfalls in Nichols Canyon.
Yeah.
We'd find them,
That's it.
and we'd hike up there with our BB guns. We
Yeah.
were just teenagers, kids, and we had a great time. But it's that little swath of real estate that really gave birth to a movement. And similarly, the swath of real estate in Cotati gave birth to Roanoke Park. You would never have had the trees that you have now in Roanoke Park if it wasn't for us fighting for that.
right.
You would never have had all those pools and parks in Roanoke Park if it
Yeah.
wasn't for us fighting for that.
That's right.
You would never have had Sonoma County if it wasn't for people like you,
Right.
me, Lenny, and Peter,
Yeah.
and Tony Novak that sat down and fought for
Yeah.
this shit.
Yeah.
And I think that people don't understand that.
I saw Tony not too long ago.
Was she
She
friendly?
comes to the bakery.
Was she friendly?
Yeah.
How
I
does she
know.
look?
She looks pretty good, and she said there's a story about Irv, and I don't know what it is.
I'm not going to tell you the whole story now, but I don't know if you know, but that Lenny and I sued Hewlett Packard. We there was another couple that sued them, and that couple was named Mike Sweeney and his wife Judy. And of course, at that time, she wasn't Judy Berry; she was Judy Sweeney. And this was 1980, and we had arguments with them because they wouldn't consolidate their suit with ours. In other words, let's all sue, and so forth and so on. And we'd have meetings with them, and I knew Judy Berry very well. Well, to make a long story short, she became the Earth First person. And then Irv Sutley got involved with her, and then she was posing with Irv Sutley with automatic weapons. There's a great book that exposes exactly who Judy Berry was. Judy Berry was a crook.
Yeah.
And who she was is by a woman by the name of Kate Coleman out of Berkeley. And Irv figures very prominently in all this. There's pictures of him in the book, and Irv was not an informer. He was not working for cops. Irv is just a nutty, kind of like homeless guy. He lives right around the corner from you, over where Highway 12 turns into Farmers Lane. He lives on SSI right there, and he's come up to my house in Sonoma and in Trinity County, but he's, you know, he well, without getting into it, one night he raped my wife, but it was I don't know, was it a kind of a rape that would occur in the street? It was a taking advantage of a woman type of thing when she was 22 and all that. Well, I forgave Irv and everybody about it. It was no big deal. But then he came up maybe 3 years ago. I got back in touch with him over the Judy Berry thing. And Irv come on up, so he came up and he tried to hit on my wife again. Since that time, I won't answer his emails or won't allow him to come up. But he lives here.
Yeah, he's a nut.
He's a nutcase.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He came into Vito's one time with a weapon.
Why?
I don't know. We never could figure it out.
Vito didn't like him either, did he?
No. He didn't like him.
Something's weird about that, Irv.
Yeah.
He's a very violent person.
Yeah.
Very violent. Well, good, Carl. I'm so happy that we were able to do this. Enjoy that book, but do take care of it. I'd like to get it back.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But loan it out to people if you want.
Well, the thing I'm going to do is that you have to come back because you got to get more tape.
I have to get more tape. What about August? I've got to go down to Santa Maria on August 22nd. Maybe on the 21st I'll shoot by.
Okay.
My wife asked me, Holly, she says hello to you, by the way, as did Peter. Peter's been reading books about all this stuff. I think I told Holly.
Maybe he should write the book.
He said in 30 days he's got another one coming out. He's on his 12th novel. You gotta hand it to the guy. What was I going to say? Oh, Peter, Holly asked me, she said, what are you going to do with these 14, 15 hours of tapes that you've made with Carl?
It's only 9 hours.
9 hours. And I told her, I said, I don't know anything I'm going to do with it. I think what will happen, Carl, is in 10 years, if you're passed away, 10, 15 years, if I'm still around, I'll look around in the landscape of history, depending if we're still here, and I'll find a museum. A museum like Dunphy donated his uniform to one in Berkeley.
Yeah, that's the person I couldn't remember that lived at Loretta's. Tom Dunphy.
And I'll give the tapes away to them for history. This stuff needs to be archived.
Yeah.
This is telling history from the bottom.
Well, I'm going to try to write a book for
I think you should. By looking through these books and taking notes and it keys your memory and having these tapes and plotting it out.
Right. Yeah.
You should.
Yeah.
Because your time finally arrived. It was at the end of your life that your time did arrive.
Mr. America.